Are you wondering what the best breeds are for service dog work? Don't worry, because in this video, I'm breaking it all down. I'm not just breaking down the top breeds for service dog work, but I'm also tying in things to consider depending on what you are training your potential service dog to do, and more importantly, how to choose a dog that's going to fit your individual unique needs. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell you just to get a lab, although I do think you should get a lab. There's a lot more to it, so stay tuned. Before diving in though, just a quick intro for those of you who may not know me. My name is Lisa. I'm a certified professional dog trainer and an Atlas Assistance Dogs certified dog trainer. I help people self-train their own service dogs using force-free, science-based methods that not only build confidence and trust, but help you and your service dog in training work together as a collaborative team. If this is something that you're interested in, be sure to hit that like button, the subscribe button, and tap the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I post a new video. And if you're interested in positively reinforcing me, be sure to hit that like button below as it helps out my channel a lot. All right. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what dog breeds I recommend, one super important note. I talk about a specific breed. I want to give the disclaimer that I'm talking about a dog from an ethical breeder. Now, I could dedicate an entire video on what quote-unquote ethical means, but I'm just going to give you kind of like a high-level overview so that we're on the same page. First, we want to find a breeder that is willing to take the puppy back. That means that this breeder believes in the dogs that they're breeding and that the breeder cares about the outcome of the puppies that they are putting on this earth. You also want to make sure that this breeder really specializes in one breed. It's a huge red flag when you see a breeder that's breeding a bunch of different types of dogs. Like one time I saw a breeder that was breeding golden retrievers, golden doodles, cavapoos. That's always a red flag. You also want a breeder that's going to health test their dogs. If you're unsure what health tests you should be looking for, you can check out what's recommended for each breed at the Orthopedic Foundation for Animals, also known as OFA. They have a directory on their website where you can search the breed and find out what health tests they recommend. Now, it's not just enough to see that the breeder health tested their dogs. You should actually read the health test as well, as I've seen breeders post the health test that shows that their dog has heart issues that they're breeding. So once again, actually read through what they are putting up. Ideally, they belong to breed or working clubs. Keep in mind, you are going to have to wait for a puppy if you're going through an ethical breeder, as they will typically only have a few litters every year. And you want to know whether the breeding pair has titles, and also make sure that they are doing some sort of socialization, like puppy culture or just early neurological stimulation, which is going to help with temperament. You're going to be spending several months, if not years, training this dog. So you want to start with healthy genetics and the right temperament. Yes, we can train things. You can train your dog to stay in a nice heel or stay or have a solid recall. But if your dog doesn't have the right temperament to be out in public, not only is it not fair for your dog to force them to work when they're anxious or unsure about public spaces, it's also very unsafe to the general public, and it can cause lawsuits down the line. Worst case scenario, if your dog bites someone, the court can order that you have to euthanize your dog. That's the worst case scenario, but we always want to think ahead and ensure that we're not adding stress to our situation, because in the long term, we want our dogs to take off stress, right? That's why we're task training our dogs. Essentially, the further you stray away from a reputable breeder, the less likely that the dog is going to have the temperament needed for service dog work. I should also mention, even with a perfect breeder, not every puppy is going to be cut out for this type of work, and that's okay. Our goal is to stack the deck in your favor from the start. Picking a dog that's anxious, overly independent, or easily overstimulated can cause serious challenges, not just for your training progress, but also for the dog's well-being. It's not fair to force a dog into this type of role if they're uncomfortable And practically speaking, a fearful or reactive dog could lead to public access issues or even legal trouble. Let's talk about what actually matters when choosing the best breed for service dog work. First, we want to make sure we're starting with function. The traits that we want in a service dog: 1, resilience, the ability to recover quickly from stress. Think about it. If someone drops something heavy, their phone, and it makes a loud noise, or a random kid runs up and pulls your dog's tail, are they able to bounce back? When we're training our service dogs, we want to expect the unexpected and train for the expected as well. So just because something is considered rude, like someone going up to your service dog going, "Oh my God, so cute." Yeah, that's rude, but is it gonna happen? Probably. So why don't we prepare for it? Second, we want to look for neutrality. We want indifference to new environments, sounds, and people. We also want a dog who is food motivated, or at least eager to please. These are dogs that naturally are bred to follow directions and work with human handlers. And then finally, confidence. We don't want a dog who is going to be easily startled or overwhelmed, especially with new or novel environments or triggers, or just things in the environment that they haven't encountered. Which is why most service dog trainers are going to recommend a well-bred Labrador Retriever or Golden Retriever because they are genetically more likely to check these boxes. Think about it. There's a reason why most service dog organizations choose these breeds. They're the most likely to succeed. And because of their motivation with food, they are easily trainable. The thing is, some people just really don't like the shedding, which is why Poodles come in at a further away third place for me. For handlers with allergies, it's often worth the trade-off. Now, before everyone in the comments goes, "Oh my God, no, dog is hyperallergenic." I know, but as someone who actually does have a dog allergy myself, I can tell you that Poodles make me way less symptomatic compared to extreme shedder. They're intelligent and love to work, but also keep in mind that they require more grooming, which is not only an extra cost to you because they do have to be groomed regularly, but you're also going to have to desensitize them to tools like clippers and brushes. Now, why don't I recommend Labradoodles or Golden Doodles? It's not that they're bad, it's just that they're not really an official breed. So there's not going to be really a standard to breed for. And I know doodles are a very controversial topic, especially if you're on TikTok, but I have met many doodles that were good service dog candidates. It's not an official breed. There's no standard to breed to. And so it can be a lot harder to figure out the traits that you should be looking for, what is structurally sound for a doodle. Poodles are just going to be a lot more reliable in terms of finding an ethical breeder. That said, I highly recommend a lab or a golden retriever over a poodle because poodles are going to be harder to train. Okay, so I want to talk about lifestyle fit as well, because even within a certain breed, there's going to be different things that the dog is bred for. So a field line is going to be a little bit more active versus what we call bench bred is going to be a little bit more on the calmer side, but you still definitely need to exercise all dogs. You want to think about what your routine is and how active you can be with your dog, not just how active are you personally, and not just on the weekends either, because I think there's a big misconception, like even outside of just service dog stuff, people will say, "Oh, I don't want a small dog because I like to go hiking on the weekends and I want a dog that can hike." Well, a lot of small dogs can hike. So I don't know why people think that they can't get a small dog to go hiking with. In fact, a lot of small dogs have a lot of energy. And so like I mentioned, you want a dog who fits into your real routine, not your fantasy routine. Finally, let's talk about finding a breed that fits with the tasks that you need. So if you're looking into training a dog for mobility work or balance tasks, you definitely have to keep in mind size, because if the dog is too small, it's not going to be healthy for them to do some of these tasks. So if you're thinking about this, I highly recommend checking out this resource, the Mobility Dog Resource Group. They're going to have a lot of information on what you should look for in a mobility dog and how to safely task train a mobility dog. Now, if you're thinking of a medical alert dog, it doesn't really matter the size. I'm still going to always recommend one of the easiest to train, which are labs and golden retrievers. But if you already have a small dog who's going to be a good fit for public access work, then a small dog can alert just fine. But if you're looking for a dog who's going to help you fetch the medication or retrieve the medication, and your medication is stored on a counter, that small dog will need a way to get onto the counter. And same thing with deep pressure therapy. A small dog may not be able to provide as much deep pressure therapy as a big dog. But once again, these are just all things to consider when you're thinking of what tasks to train if you already have a dog, or what breed to select if you're searching for your next prospect. If you don't already have a dog, I really recommend the Lab or Golden. It's just so much easier, and it's already a lot of work to self-train a service dog. To further drive home the point, let me explain why I don't recommend selecting certain breeds for most people. If you're looking to select a dog specifically for service dog work, I once again recommend making it as easy as possible for you, because yes, genetics are going to be one component, but training is another big component. And when you're raising a puppy, if you don't know what you're doing, it's really easy to mess it up. And you're going to have a lot more wiggle room to mess up with a dog like a lab or a golden versus some of these other breeds I'm going to talk about. Every dog is an individual, and there can be variety within each breed. So with that disclaimer, let's dive into why I don't recommend some of these breeds. I don't recommend terriers for service dog work because they're bred for independent hunting. They have high prey drive, they're impulsive, they're easily overstimulated, and while they might be great for things like agility or lure coursing, they're not necessarily the best option for public access. I also don't recommend bulldogs and bully breeds, because while they may be wonderful snuggle hippos, they are very hyper-focused and strong-willed, and they can get stuck on distractions very easily, which makes them not really the best fit for public access work. Next, I have scent hounds, breeds like beagles or bloodhounds. They are so adorable, but they are bred to be driven by their nose. So the second an interesting smell hits, you're going to be competing with that smell when you are trying to train. Fourth is going to be herding breeds. Herding breeds are going to be things like your border collies and your Australian shepherds. While they are incredibly smart, they can be very high arousal, neurotic, and prone to reactivity. And so unless you're very experienced with the breed and you're going to provide them all of their enrichment needs and their physical needs, you're just adding a lot more to the work you have to do. Finally, I don't recommend guardian breeds like your Cane Corsos and your Great Pyrenees, because they're going to be bred for independent decision making, and in general, they're a little bit more territorial and not ideal for neutral public access work. With guardian breeds, you're going to really have to do a lot of work on keeping them socialized, keeping them comfortable with novel things in the environment, and it's just adding a lot more to the work you have to do. Obviously, it can be done with any of these breeds, but it's going to be an uphill battle. So if you are looking to select a service dog prospect and want to give yourself the best chance, I always am going to recommend a Labrador Retriever or a Golden Retriever. Training a service dog is already hard enough, so what is the point of making it harder? Also, most likely you're spending a lot of money already on this new dog, and so once again, just give yourself the best chance of success. Training your own service dog is a long-term commitment. And while it can be very rewarding, it can also be one of the most challenging things you do. So choosing the right breed is setting yourself up for success. From there, it's all about building focus, calm, and confidence in public spaces. Most people don't fail at training their service dog because they don't care. They fail because they don't have a dog with the right appropriate temperament, and they don't have a clear plan. Now, while I can't help you with giving your dog a different temperament, I can help you with the plan part. So that's why I created my free webinar, How to Master Public Access Training Without Confusing confusion or guesswork. Inside, I break down my 4-phase method for getting your dog ready for public access. You can watch it anytime, and I'll include a link below where you can register to get access to the recording. So before you pick your next service dog prospect, remember, first you want to choose the right temperament for the job. You want to also match your dog to your lifestyle and the tasks that you need, and you want to make sure you have a roadmap for training once they do come home. And I'd love to hear, what breed were you thinking about before watching this video, and what breed are you thinking about after? Maybe it's still the same, but if you're considering a lab, then kudos to you. But if you're not considering a lab, I'd love to hear, why not? This is something I'm very interested in. So leave a comment below. All right, that's it for today, and I will see you in the next video.